Hi there and welcome to today's video where I am finally going to announce my Chahoua's name as I've had him for a year now and he only got a name a couple months ago. Also, I'm going to update you guys on him, tell you a bit of backstory, how much he was, how I got him to me. So yeah, let's crack on with this. So first of all, he is now about a year and a half. He hatched out in December 2016. When he came to me, he weighed 20 grams and was about 15 centimetres long. Now, last time I weighed him, which was last month, he was 45 grams and he is 23 centimetres long. So that might not seem a lot for a reptile, but I feel like for a Chahoua it is, especially a mainland, because the mainlands are smaller than Pine Islands. I'm not 100% sure if this is true, but I remember reading somewhere that females are generally a little bit bigger than the males. So with that in mind, you have a mainland who's also a male, so he was going to be on the smaller side. I think Pine Island ones can reach like 80 to 100 grams, so it's a very big difference to the mainlands. Now, from talking to the breeder who I got him from at the time, he did say that it can take up to 2 years for a Chahoua to fully mature and get to its adult size. And even this year, he has still been growing, so there is potential for him to get a lot longer or a lot heavier. The one bit where I think he is the longest is his tail. That thing's insane, but you know, in their name they are Mossy Prehensile Tailed Geckos, and that is definitely like a fifth limb to him. The amount of times I've seen him at night try to maneuver and move and then drop a little bit, but his tail has grasped onto a branch, it's just insane. It is a fifth limb. Oh, and by the way, talking about how long it takes for them to be fully mature, I did think it was going to be a lot longer before I knew his gender, but after about 2 months of having him, so he must have been about 7 months old, he had this bulge. This bulge appeared literally overnight, and that is a definite sign of a male. So now let's talk about the name. I am hopeless with naming things, especially lizards, since they live so long that I really want to be happy with their name. So yeah, it can take me a long time. I've known his name for the last few months, but I've been wanting to get used to it myself so I can then feel comfortable to tell you guys. Some people wanted me to call him Toothless because he looks a little bit like Toothless from How to Train a Dragon. Some people have said he looks like a little velociraptor. I thought he looked a little bit like a much friendlier Drogon from Game of Thrones because of all the black and the red colouring. But I have settled on a name. He actually has a full name. You may know my guinea pig Ted. His full name is Theodore Vladislav. So this isn't unusual for my pets. They tend to have more than one name. Anyway, my Chahoua is called Drogo Thaddeus Chahoua, but I call him Drogo. As I said, he reminded me of Drogon, but I didn't really like the sound of that, and I quite like Drogo. I mean, I'm not sure why. It works. So yes, he is called Drogo. So altogether, my lizards are Gizmo, Minnie, Diego, Ziggy, Lyra, Drogo. So I think that actually goes quite well. Now, hopefully you don't tune out straight away, as I want to talk a bit about how I got him and how much he was and where I got him from. So, looking for a Chahoua breeder was a little tricky. I didn't want to buy from a shop because there aren't many by me anyway, let alone ones that have Chahuas. Most places will have a crested gecko, gargoyle, leechy, no problem. But Chahuas is one that a lot of people either haven't heard of, or they're just not as popular for some reason. And in some ways that's okay, because there's a lot of reptiles that get popular and get way overbred. And with Chahuas, the females lose so much calcium when breeding that ideally you want to leave them for a year in between breeding, and to think that a shop might mass breed them, not take that into consideration, is kind of sad. So in some ways I'm glad it was trickier to get hold of him, if that makes sense. One thing I had to do is sort of email people in the UK who I found had Chahuas and be like, okay, what breeder did you get yours from? And every time I'd find a breeder, they just sold out. I eventually found a guy. He sent me this picture and said I have like 2 or 3 left, and I asked if the dark one in the back was still available, and he said yes. I also asked if he was just fired up or he happens to be darker than the rest of them, and for whatever reason he was just darker than the rest of them, so of course that would be mine. Then I had to organise a courier, and that courier was pretty good. I cannot remember who it was though, but they pretty much asked for like all the needs of the reptile they're transporting, so like temperature, humidity and all of that, and each reptile had their own little area which could be set individually, so everyone was being transported in the perfect requirements for themselves, if that makes sense. And he just came to me in a plastic cricket box, and that was that. The courier ended up being about £40 to £50, so it was quite expensive, and he was £150, so he was not cheap. I have a feeling the Pine Island ones are probably more expensive, but yeah, it was not cheap, but definitely worth it. So you may be wondering, what's his temperament like? What is he like in general? I would say he's very lovely and very lively. I've never seen any kind of aggression from him. I've been able to hold him and hand feed him from day one, and he's just super sweet. I would say if you find it difficult to hold a crested gecko, if you think they're too quick for you, a Chahoua would be far quicker than a crested gecko, but they are really lovely geckos. Now, interestingly, he actually sticks to a similar schedule every single day. So his UV light will come on for 2 hours in the morning, and he'll lay out on his little branch and take that in. Then when that goes off, his LED light comes on, his growth light, it's Jungle Dawn, and that will come on for the majority of the day. And then he'll go and hide in either the planter on the left or the planter on the right. Most likely the one on the right. Seems to be just his favourite spot, and he'll sometimes poke his head out and look, but for the majority of the day he sleeps in there, so I don't see him around his tank. In the evening, the UV light comes on for another 2 hours, and sometimes that's when he will start to emerge. And when that light goes out, then he is just all around his tank for the rest of the evening. In terms of his diet, he loves to eat insects. He will definitely hunt down crickets and waxworms. I only give him waxworms as a treat, but crickets, I know I can put a few in his tank and he will hunt them down. He also eats Pangea, but he won't always clear his dishes. It seems to be something like he will eat them when I feed them to him, but not always eat a lot when he's eating on his own, if you know what I mean. I have tried him with Sticky Foot Gold by Arcadia, since he does have UV in his tank, but sadly he hasn't really taken to that. He does like their jellies, but just not so much the main diet, which is a shame. I also have a feeling he eats his cleanup crew, which isn't too bad because actually they breed like crazy and they're a great source of calcium, but I often find him down on the bottom of his tank, like on the branch that comes down, just watching over them. As for handling, I am able to handle him every day if I want to. A few close friends have handled him too. My family isn't too keen on him because they don't like jumpy geckos, but yeah, in general, everyone else who's handled him have said how pretty he is and how lovely he is and how soft he is. Talking about how pretty he is, because I am biased, I absolutely love his colours. He has white specks and red highlights, and his skin can go really dark, almost like black, and then other times it can be quite light and he can look quite mossy. I've taken pictures of him, like you look at them and you don't even think it's the same gecko. It's quite extreme, the change he really has, and it's just nature at its best. But anyway, I hope you have enjoyed an update on this guy. If you want to learn more about Chahuas, I have done a care guide on them. Also, if you haven't already, please subscribe. It's much appreciated. But thank you very much for watching, guys, and goodbye. Maybe I'm painting